Hello everyone, really hope you're all having a really good weekend. Thank you so much for all of the lovely comments that I've had on the fertility video that I did last week or the week before. It was really nice to hear from all of you and I'm really glad it was helpful. So I've decided to do another video today on another difficult topic to talk about, and the topic is grief and the loss of a parent. So I lost my mum about 5-6 years ago, and it's actually quite a pertinent topic to today because tomorrow would actually have been my mum's 62nd birthday, and she hasn't been in my life now for 6 years, and it's really tough. There's just absolutely no words to describe the loss of a parent. It's just awful. It just changes your life. It turns the world up on its head. But I guess I've got some retrospect now. It's been 5-6 years, and you know, the grieving process is really hard. It does take its time, but you do kind of get used to things and you do come out the other side. So if any of my experiences is helpful to people, then I thought I might as well share it. And I was quite lucky at the time. I say lucky, but when I lost my mum, there were 2 other colleagues that I knew that had lost parents as well. They'd lost their mums and they were working alongside me as a midwife, and I just found it really helpful to be able to talk to them about how I was feeling at the time. And I just thought there might be other people out there who aren't very good at talking to other people about their feelings, or perhaps they just don't know anyone else that's lost a parent recently or at all, lost a parent at all. And I just think there's even if you've lost a grandparent, obviously that's really sad as well, and it's not to take away from losing a grandparent because that's also awful, but when it's your mum or your dad, that's like your life rock just suddenly taken away from you. So what I'm going to start off by talking about is when my mum was in hospital, there were quite a lot of memories, I guess, which were quite hard to process. And being a midwife and being in the hospital, there were lots of situations which I thought I would know a little bit about, you know, sort of end of life care, but actually in reality I was very much in denial at the time, and those images played out quite a lot afterwards. So quite often it would be when I was trying to go to sleep at night, these images and memories would just keep playing again and again and again in my mind, and it was really, really hard to switch off. The only thing I can say on that front is it does get better. You will be able to sleep again. It probably for me took 6 to 8 months, I reckon, for those images to kind of calm down. And I think after those images calmed themselves down, they sort of got replaced by memories, just any memories. I'd find memories of when I was maybe 4, 5, 6 years old just popping up. But again, it is just your brain processing everything. It will calm down, I promise. So at the time as well, there were lots of things to organise. I never thought age 26 I'd be going into a funeral parlour and trying to choose a coffin that my mum would like. There's no words really to describe it, and also choosing flowers that you thought your mum really liked and hymns to sing at a funeral service. You just have to get through it. Looking back now, it was kind of like a big haze over me, and you know, days rolled into months and months rolled into more months, and time passes. I actually went back to work about 4 weeks after the funeral, and I remember people at the time saying, that's really soon, you should have taken more time off. But I think for me, I just wanted to carry on living really, and I had rent to pay, I had to keep buying food for myself, and I just thought there's no point spending loads of time off because all I'm doing is lying in bed. And there were times where I didn't even want to watch Netflix. I just didn't want to do anything. I couldn't read a book. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I just lay in bed and just sort of existed, and time just passed. And I think what you've got to remember is all of these things will show up like signs of depression. If you type into Google depression symptoms, obviously all of these things are going to come up, but you've got to be kind to yourself because ultimately at the end of the day you're going through grief, and if you had a good relationship with your mum or your dad, you're going to feel these things, and lots of different emotions are going to cycle their way through. If you type into Google the grief cycle, I think it cycles through about 7 different emotions, and I know for me it did. It just went round probably a couple of times actually. So at the time as well, I was given some gifts, which was really nice. Obviously, you don't expect anything after the death of anyone. You're very much sort of internalised at the time, but I remember any cards that I did receive or any texts from friends, they were gratefully received. And I think on this topic, a lot of people find it very difficult to know what language to use with you after the loss of a parent. And all I can say to that is it's absolutely okay if you don't have the words for it, because I don't have the words for it either, really, apart from it's awful and I've gone through it myself. So just any sort of condolence words will always be gratefully received by someone that's lost a parent, as long as you're not cracking your mum jokes or, you know, taking the mick out of the situation. There's nothing really you can say. And I remember at the time looking back at everything that I said to people after they'd lost their parents and thinking, did I say the right thing? You can't, you just don't know what to say. There are just no words. So just being there and offering your support is honestly enough. And don't take offence if you have got a friend that's suffering a loss at the moment. If they don't want to come out and spend time with you, it's nothing personal. It's just sometimes it's really hard to find the energy to even get out of bed and do the things that you have to do during your day. So they will come back to you in their own time. And I remember there being a certain time, I think this was probably a couple of months on really, and I remember thinking to myself, okay Lizzie, you need to get out now, you need to push yourself through, otherwise you're just going to stay in this pit of a room forever. So I did force myself out on some occasions and see friends and family, and at that time I did actually feel better for pushing myself through and going out and seeing people. And then you can obviously come back and relax at home and take a bath and do whatever you can do to relax. So another thing we had to do fairly soon afterwards, it's probably a couple of months after my mum died, is my stepdad at the time, he was kind of ready to start processing things in the house. So we had to go through things such as my mum's handbag. I think that was probably one of the hardest things to do, because we had to go through her wallet and she had her ID in there, which I took a photo of. We even went through her purse and divided the money up in it. It's just stuff that you just don't want to do. And also her glasses. I mean, what the hell do you do with objects like that? It's just, yeah, again, no words. We went through her clothes, me and my sister, and we split them halfway down the middle. There were some things that we just laughed about and just thought neither of us are going to wear these, and unfortunately some things would have to go to charity shop. What can you do? You can't keep it all at the end of the day. I think the hardest thing though was after we'd gone through my mum's clothes and I'd hung them up in my wardrobe, I'd occasionally go in there and give them a little sniff because they still smelt of my mum. And I think the saddest thing was over time the scent just fades. It does, and it's just awful because you want to hold on to that stimulus forever, because once it's gone, how do you get the smell of your mum back? I mean, I do actually still have some of her perfumes, which I'll sometimes put on and wear out, which is also sort of nice, but also really sad. But I'm also glad that I do still have those. You might well find though that the family dynamics change a little bit after your parent has passed. I know for me, my mum was very much the organiser of the family. So once she passed, it was very much like a big jigsaw piece was missing from the puzzle, because she would connect her parents with us, she'd connect her siblings, her brother and her sister with us. And after she went, we didn't hear much about the other side of the family, didn't hear about what was going on. And I guess you kind of have to, if you do have a very good relationship with that side of the family, it might well be worth sort of taking on that organiser role just to make sure that you do still see your relatives. Every family is different, so obviously what's happened to me is going to look a little bit different than what's happened to you, but you just kind of have to take the family shift and just try and work things through really. And sometimes people will distance themselves, and you just have to decide what you want really, and just let that happen. Coping mechanisms. So a hard thing for me was I came back from holiday quite shortly after my mum passed, and it's just normal, well it was normal for me anyway, to send my mum a text to say I've landed safe And I just found it was really hard that I couldn't do that. So I wrote a really long text out on my phone, or in the notes, I think, section. And I just wrote everything to her that I would have said to her on the phone or via text. So I've landed safe. This is what I did on holiday. I really enjoyed this, that, the other, fourth. I've sent you a postcard. It's on its way. That sort of thing. And it did help at the time. I remember thinking it was desperately sad. And I know some people will also phone-call their parents, especially I think if your mum or dad had an answer phone message with their voice on, I can completely understand why you would call their phone. And speaking of this as well, I've just changed phones recently and I've got so many messages on there, but when it asked me in the transfer link over, do you want to transfer all of your messages over the last 2 years? I had to say yes to all of them because there's messages on there from 6 years ago, from my mum 6-7 years ago, and I just thought, I can't bear to lose them. And I looked through them a little bit, scrolled back through, and it's just hard, it's just sad. I couldn't really look at them for that much time, to be honest, because it's just sad. It's just sad looking at texts that you've sent back and forward to your mum. But also, I wasn't ready, and I don't think I'll ever feel ready to actively get rid of them either. So anyway, they're on my phone now, so maybe one day I'll pluck up the courage and have a little look through. I must say though, looking at photos of my mum was really, really hard afterwards, and that does get better. All I would suggest is maybe keeping some out, and it will be a little bit of a stab in the chest whenever you see them at the beginning, but it does get better. And on my birthday, on my 30th, just back in January, I actually cut together a big, massive, long 2-hour video of all of the video footage of me growing up. And it was actually okay. I could look at it on the day, and let's put it this way, I didn't burst into tears on my birthday, which I can only see as a positive thing. I spent a lot of time editing that together, and I watched it on my birthday after I'd had a few champagnes as well, which, you know, can sometimes push you over the edge. And I was able to watch it, and I was able to enjoy it. And you can look back at the memories and the videos of your mum and enjoy it for what it is, and be grateful that they exist. So that's only a good thing as well. And I must say that there isn't a single day where I don't still think about my mum. You'd think it would get better over time, and it does. I'd say the pain changes. So right at the beginning, I don't think I have had a panic attack, but I think I got close to one. And just the physical pain, you can just feel it. It's like a stabbing pain in your chest. And the only thing I can say is the pain, it does change. It gets more like, I'd say it's more like a dull ache now whenever I think of her. And time passes and lots of other memories happen. For example, I've bought a house since she's died. I have got a new partner since she's died. I've got 2 beautiful cats, which you can see poking around in the background. And my mum loved cats, and there's lots of things that I can't share with her now, which is always desperately sad. But I just kind of, it's more like a dull ache than a real stabby, debilitating pain. So that does change a little bit. And another thing that changes is your outlook on life. And I would say for me, I'm very, very scared of people close to me dying. So even as much as my cats or my partner, he went into hospital and I turned into a bit of a crazy person just because I was worried about him. So it does come out in bizarre, odd ways. I'm very worried about another family member dying. It's just one of those things, but the way that I deal with it on a day-to-day basis is you just try and make the most of it. And I'd say if you do have a family member that's very close to you, just make sure if you've said to your mum you'll take her away on holiday, no time is better than the present. Just do it. Just take her away. Even if you don't have any money, even if it's a cheapish holiday somewhere, your mum is honestly not going to care about how much money you spend on that holiday. All she's going to want to do is spend some time with you. So if you can get away and do that, then amazing. Also take lots of photos. Mother's Day, don't forget it. You know, it's all of these things that in retrospect, you just have to make the most of your time and just live in the moment and enjoy things and just push for everything that you want to do in your life, because ultimately you do only have one life and you don't know how long you've got. So I know for me, my outlook has very much changed I really hope that this video has helped someone out there. And if you do want to drop into my DMs and have a little chat with me, I'm very, very happy to have a chat about grief and loss. It's something that is a burden that I now have to bear for the rest of my life. And if it helps to talk to someone, I don't care if you don't know me very well. Honestly, I'm very, very happy to have a conversation with you. So really hope that helps. Look after yourself, and I'll speak to you soon.